Welcome everybody to the first Women in the World Chicago convening. I nearly said convention. You don't look much like a convention here. It's fantastic to be here, and I'm so thrilled to look around this room and see so many women of substance and style and stature and dynamism, which is what you all are. So many, many thanks for being here with me and with us for Women in the World. When we decided we wanted to bring women in the world out of New York and take the things we'd learned to other places, it was so obvious to us that we should start in Chicago. This is a city of dynamism, it's a city of innovative entrepreneurs, it's a city of incredible civic leaders, so that felt it must be our first stop. And because of that, we got together and decided who were the great women who could help to join with us in the enterprise. And I'd like now to acknowledge my wonderful co-hosts who've helped to make all this happen today. The brilliant entrepreneur and civic leader, Tricia Rooney Alden, founder, president, and CEO of R4 Services. Stand up, Tricia, wherever you are. We've gone all dark here. Nora Daly. Where are you, Nora? The chair of Chicago's Cultural Advisory Council, and of course the senior advisor at Metropolis Strategies. M.K. Pritzker, whose Evergreen Invitational does an enormous amount for women's health. Linda Johnson Rice. Where are you, Linda? Yay! Which of course publishes Ebony Jet and owns Fashion Fair Cosmetics. Desiree Rogers was supposed to be with us too, but she alas had to get out of town, but we thank her as well. And of course there's always one honorary male co-host, and that of course had to be the one and only truly brilliant and great friend of mine, Theasta Gates, the great artist. Who's revitalizing so much of the South Side through his groundbreaking art and the way he has taken that crumbling jewel, that historic jewel of a bank, and turned it into an art space and library for the community. So thank you so much, Theasta, for bringing your tremendous, let's say, the heft of your gender to this this breakfast today. Now, some of you may know a little bit about Women in the World. It began 5 years ago in a tiny theater in Midtown Manhattan. It came out of a passion and a dream, in a sense. The idea was to do foreign affairs through the eyes of women, because that's the voice you never hear, the woman in the place that you read about in the paper, which is war-torn, which is crazy, which is, you look at it and you think, how can women live in that situation? I wanted to bring women from all over the world who would actually tell their stories and tell us what it was like to live in places, both good and bad, and what it felt like, what the texture of those lives were. Tell us their stories and tell us what we could learn from them. So we brought them in, and they told their stories all live in the theater, and the audience came back in larger and larger numbers, moved not only by the likes of the celebrated women who joined with us too, such as Hillary Clinton or Christine Lagarde or Angelina Jolie, but really by the stories and words of the activists that you'd never heard of, the grassroots change makers and the dissidents from the far corners of the earth fighting to change their societies that are holding them back, and in the process really being such inspiring role models to us in America. It's really a true index, I think, of the excitement that is growing, that last year we had over 2,000 people in Lincoln Center each day and over 44 million tweets. Now, obviously, some attendees must have tweeted more than once, okay, but it was still an amazing generation of energy. Women in the World now has become such a powerful global platform that beginning this year, I decided that to make it my prime focus, expanding its reach and influence nationally and internationally, and introduce some of the incredible women who've lit up our stage to audiences all over the country. And of course, the city that we wanted to come to first was the one affectionately known as the Second City. But I can assure you that the women you're going to meet this morning are second to none. Case in point, there's no woman who has moved our audience more in the last 5 years than the fearless, inspirational Nobel Peace Laureate Leymah Gbowee of Liberia. She organized a mass movement of women to call for peace and an end to the civil war that ravaged her country from 1999 to 2003. And really her efforts were critical in helping to topple the brutal dictator, Charles Taylor. Since the end of the war, Leymah has worked tirelessly for peace and reconciliation in Liberia, and since then for the education and elevation of women in a society that is really pitiless in terms of opportunity. We're also going to have a conversation with a true local heroine, Sally Hazelgrove, a mother who wanted so much to keep young boys from the dangers of gangs and keep them in school, she learned how to box and moved into Englewood neighborhood to create something she's called the Crushers Club. I'm longing to introduce you to her. And then there are tomorrow's leaders. One of our traditions at Women in the World is to showcase young women innovators who are setting out to solve a problem in society in a uniquely creative way. We call them Mothers of Invention, and we partner with Toyota to present their stories. Thank you very much to the leadership of Julie Hamp, Chief Communications Officer for Toyota North America, Dion Colvin-Lovely, National Manager Media Planner for Toyota Division Marketing, and also to a true friend and supporter of women, Executive Communications Director for Saatchi & Saatchi LA, John Lisco, who's been such an imaginative friend of Women in the World as it has grown. We're very grateful for your sustained commitment. And also we're very grateful to J.W. Marriott, who generously stepped up to be Women in the World's hospitality partner in Chicago and in New York. And I had a wonderful, very, very cosseted night last night in a beautiful suite, thanks to J.W. Marriott. So thank you, Marriott, for doing this. We thank you. Before we start with Leymah, I'd like just to welcome to the stage Dion Colvin-Lovely from our presenting partner, Toyota. Dion and Toyota have really been a great partner to us over the last several years, as I say. Her team is helping us expand Women in the World, bringing experiences like this to locations all over the country. Dion has been a champion, a true driving force for change in the corporation that helps women and girls realize their dreams. And I can't thank her enough for her partnership and enthusiasm, which allowed us to make some very good things happen. So where are you, Dion? Come and join us.
Thank you, Tina. It's such a pleasure to be here. If you know anything about Toyota, you know that Toyota stands for helping our guests and our consumers pursue their passions. We do that not only through our products, but we do it by supporting individuals at the community level. That's the reason why we support the Mothers of Invention in partnership with Women in the World. It's also the reason why we've supported local heroes like Barb Lazarus, who's from Chicago and has an organization called Game On. Where's Barb? There she is. Barb's group is all about helping young girls and women develop confidence and self-esteem through the pursuit of athletics and sports. We do this because we know the world's a better place when leaders at the local level especially are able to pursue their missions in life. A little over a year ago, the Women in the World Foundation brought to light a situation in a remote part of northeast Ghana. Through a lack of transportation, children were having difficulty getting access to very basic medical needs. So in working with the Women in the World Foundation and the Virtue Foundation, we partnered with them to do something about that. And here's how it turned out.
I love the simple practicality of that wonderful gesture that Toyota made, which is so transformative in Tumu. Thank you. Let's get some coffee and then we'll come back with Leymah. Yes. So now, ladies, we're going to meet the amazing Leymah Gbowee, the inspirational Nobel laureate from Liberia. She's going to come on up, and as she comes up, I'd like you just to watch a little video which captures, it's a piece of news footage, which captures the quintessential proud fearlessness of Leymah and what she achieved in that tormented period in the 90s in Liberia. Let's see the video.
We ask the Honorable Pro Tem of the Senate, being a woman and being in line with our cause, to kindly present this statement to His Excellency, Dr. Charles Taylor, with this message that the women of Nigeria, including the IDP, we are tired of war. We are tired running. We are tired begging for government. We are tired of our children being raped. We are now taking this stand to secure the future of our children, because we believe as custodians of society tomorrow, our children will ask us, Mama, what was your role during the crisis? Kindly convey this to the President of Nigeria. Thank you.
So, welcome, Leymah. I think we all look at you in that film, standing there in front of that brutal man, saying those brave words on behalf of all those women. Were you afraid that day? Tell us about that day.
Thank you first for having me, and thank you all for waking up from your bed this early to be here. Chicago is cold. You know, when I started doing this work, I was 31 years old. The war started when I was 17. So I had lived through fear from 17 to 31. And there was no being afraid anymore in my life. I tell people the first time I saw a dead body, it was at 17. And I froze. At 31, I could jump over a dead body without thinking twice. What I had in me was a lot of anger. But not anger like Taylor, because Taylor was an angry man. And I tell people the difference between Dr. King and Hitler. I actually asked that question to Mayor Emanuel when I was in his office last year. What do you think Dr. King and Hitler have in common? He said nothing except their humanity. And I said no, they were all angry people. But the way they dealt with their anger determined one person a villain and the other a hero. I was angry, but I decided I was going to use my anger in a good way, like people like King, and speak truth to power. Fear has never been a part of my life. From that moment, from 17, when I've gotten rid of the fear, today I think I have no fear, especially when it comes to facing cowards and dictators.
I think what was so impressive was the way you organized women. It was a brilliant idea. I mean, tell me how you came to the idea that it was in the organizing of women that you were going to make this difference in terms of putting that pressure on Charles Taylor and the brutal militia.
Well, most times when people talk about organizing women, they tend to think it happens, you just get up and say women come together and it happens. No. When we started working as a group of women, we realized we had a distinct quality as women. And that quality was that we all had some kind of pain that we were carrying. And the pain was our point of mobilization. The illustration that I use most times is that when women go through conflict, or in our lives, even like yourself as a corporate woman, business executive, we are the sponges. We absorb all of the dirt, but we have nowhere to squeeze it out. And so when we started our mobilization, we created very simple spaces with a pail of water a new bar of soap, a new towel, a bottle of perfume, and one candle would turn off the light, and each person had to tell their story. And we say that space was timeless. So no one would say 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And women told about rape. Women told about abuses. Women told about watching a child die. I told my story of having my third son as a refugee girl and sleeping in the hallway of a hospital in Ghana for 1 week because I couldn't afford a bill of less than $40, of my premature baby never being put in an incubator. What we saw the next day was women who were walking on tiptoes, walking back into the room boldly and planting their feet and saying to us, what next? What can we do?
Wow, so it was the bringing of those women together, letting them tell their stories in that group that brought that energy, that created the movement.
Tina, the thing about womanhood, the thing of sisterhood is that if you sit and share your deepest pain with someone, something that you're not able to share with your husband or your children or people close to you, there is a bound. And then at the end of the day, if you decide we're going to do this together, it's only death that can separate you. And that's what people did not understand about the Liberian women's movement. Because by the time we had told the story about our pain, we got angry in a good way. Angry that we're going out there, we're getting those men, we're getting those women, whoever they were, that was stopping our children from living in peace. We will not stop until we see peace.
And how long did it take to achieve your ends? And tell us about the day when you took that whole group and you went to it was to Monroeville you went, right? So tell us about that.
Well, we protested for 2.5 years. So even after the signing of the peace agreement, we still protested until elections came. But that one day when we went to Taylor, the regime was a dictatorial regime. No one expected that we would stand up, we would get in the streets, because he had given a mandate to his soldiers that if you see any woman in the street, including my mother, whip her off the street. So when we told the women that we're going to meet Taylor, he had said to his security guards, no woman is going to come in the street. So if they appear here at less than 25, don't grant them audience. That morning, we asked the women to sit at the University of Liberia, which is like adjacent or opposite the executive mansion. And then I, with 2 other women, walked down and met his security men. And they had some soldiers handcuffed, sitting on the floor. And I said, we have a meeting with President Taylor at 10. And he said, yes. But the soldier said, we've been instructed that if you're less than 25, we shouldn't allow you in. And then I said, what if we're more than 25? He said, then we'll allow you in. So I took out my cell phone and called and told the women, line up and start coming. A sea of 2,500 women in white. And all he could say was, oh my God, these women are really serious. They called into President Taylor's office and said, this is the number of women. And he said he will only see 10 of us in his office. I said, hell no. He will come down and see all of us. And then the soldier said, ma'am, why do you want to get arrested? So President Taylor said, if we were more than 25, he will see all of us. I'm going in there to tell him off. By that time, I had shot past them. And then the next thing he said, come back, come back, come back. The president is on his way down. And then he came down and were able to present that statement. But one of the things that the movie did not show was that as we got there, they brought chairs from his office, very fancy chairs, gold railing, and asked us to sit. And we told him no. We sat on the floor. And the rationale was that if your war continues, or as you're killing us, when we run, we don't run with chairs. We sit on the floor.
I love it. Well, since he fell, what happened then? Did you then take what you'd gained? I mean, obviously, Ellen Sirleaf Johnson then became the first female leader of Liberia, and a new day was brought to Liberia. What has happened since to the women of Liberia, Leymah, and how do you see their predicament now?
Well, today we still have a
Can everybody hear, by the way? Yes, good. I want to make sure the audio is okay. Continue.
Today we have a very vibrant women's movement. We have not been able to get all of the laws and policies that we should have gotten. And this is where I take the learning from Liberia into post-conflict countries and say to women, when you're at your transitional period, don't let anything slip past you. Grab every law, grab every policy, grab anything in the interest of women, because once elections have been held, no one will look back and say, let's think about the women. So today we have a movement of grassroots women. We're still struggling to get some of the laws. Rape and abuse is still a problem. Teenage pregnancy is a huge issue. One of the most dangerous places to have your daughters is in school, because the sex for grades is a huge thing in Liberia. But having said that, we also have a community of vibrant women who understand that it is their duty to protect their communities. So you go in communities, a lot of the activism and advocacy continues to be by women. I have, and I don't want to sound arrogant, but I think I've come to the place in Liberia where I realize that my calling by God is not to be on anyone's side, but to be on the side of the people of Liberia. So recently I fell off with President Sirleaf. I've been speaking my minds about things that haven't been good. And I realized that every time I have a media interview in Liberia, by God's grace, people listen, and society and community start. So sometimes when I'm walking the streets, you have street boys shouting, "This is Leymah Gbowee, the only woman who refused to be corrupted by a corrupt country." I feel good about that, but that's a huge burden, because to be a voice for a country is a difficult thing. I've lost a lot of friends in that process. If I was having this breakfast in Liberia, many of the business people would shy away but I don't mind, because when we protested Taylor, we didn't have friends in the regime. We were fighting for justice and peace. So today that the women, we're still the voices of that country. It's a good feeling.
Now, Leymah, you've been traveling a lot recently in your role since you won the Nobel Prize, which was an amazing and wonderful thing that happened. Leymah, by the way, wrote a brilliant book called Mighty Be the Powers, which I'm very proud to say that I published at Beast Books when I was there. She and I partnered on this, and we created a writing partnership with someone who joined with us. Leymah wrote her memoir, which is in all your gift bags, which I think you're going to love when you read it. And as she got on the plane to come and promote her book to years ago, she learned she had won the Nobel Prize with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, which is a great and wonderful moment, Leymah. And since you won the prize, of course, you've been invited to many countries now to see what is going on. And I know that you've been in Libya, and you've been in Mexico, and you've been in Burma. What do you see, for instance, with the women in Libya? Because that situation, they've also come out of a hideous conflict. They've toppled a dictator, and there was a great hope, I think, for women in Libya that things were going to improve. What did you see when you went there?
First thing first, when I got to Tripoli May last year, a backdrop to my being in Tripoli was that I was in Italy, met with the Prime Minister, met with Parliament, and the Italian government has a huge stake in Libya. And I was advocating for a local group, a local organization in Italy to partner with local organizations in Tripoli to do work around reconciliation and forgiveness. But I was also at Parliament pushing them to give a huge chunk of money to this local organization. They agreed to give them this money with a clause that I'm engaged with their project. So I agreed to do so, help them to think through the project. So I go to Tripoli for this first round of meetings, and the first thing that hit me, you know how Gaddafi spent money on Africa around with his flamboyant lifestyle. The underdeveloped nature of Tripoli made me angry. And as you show the film, Toyota in Ghana, I tear up angry again, because this should not be the state of Africans. This should not be. Our continent is rich, vast wealth. Greedy, selfish, masochistic leaders have done this to our people. And every time I see those things, I get angry. So from the airport to the hotel, I was like, what? And then you see this huge mess of Gaddafi's empire that was broken down. Go to Tripoli, and at that time, before getting there, I had said to the group, I need you all to bring women together. Let's talk about some of the issues of sexual violence, because we know it happened there. Got to Tripoli, you could not find the women. And then stories of horror stories of women going through victimization again and again. If you were raped, your family put you in the basement of their house or in a room and lock you up, because you then have become a shame to the family. If you decide to run, your brothers track you down and slit your throat. That was the situation of the women there. So people were not talking about rape. No one was talking about it. I go to a meeting and I have a big mouth. If you ever want to make me your friend and you need something from people, don't put me ahead of you, because I will destroy it with my mouth.
She's scary. Leymah's scary when she's mad.
So I walk into this room, 300 people, grand ballroom, Prime Minister, Justice Minister, Chief Justices of the Supreme Court. Every important male in the government of Libya is sitting in that room. And this was supposed to be a conference for women. And I could check less than 20 women on my finger. My talk was supposed to be about the role of women in the transitional process. I talked, and then one after the other, everyone who went on the stage never verbalized the word rape. Something terrible happened. No one will say rape. Something bad happened. Something happened. And I'm sitting there saying, what the hell? That something has a name. It's called rape. And there are people who are looking for leaders to open their mouth and say, rape happened in this country. So I went up on the stage and said, girl, you're going to be kicked out of this country, or you will be in prison, but you will say what that something is. I climbed up there and said, rape happened. Rape happened in this country. And you cannot talk about justice and reconciliation and accountability and forgiveness if no one is willing to acknowledge that women and men were raped. I've said it. I left Tripoli very angry again. And then 2 weeks later, I get this email from these people in Italy. Thank you for coming, because I told them they invited me to a messy conference, messed up my emotions, did nothing for me. Because I don't go down alone. If you make me to feel bad, I make you to feel bad. My children know that. So I just made them to feel bad, because I was leaving feeling bad. And then she said to me, you know, sometimes God works through mess. After your talk, the Justice Minister of Libya by himself sat down and drafted a rape law.
Wow, that's amazing.
That law has passed the first major hurdle, and they're waiting for it to pass. And if that law passes, it makes Libya the first Arab nation to make rape a war crime.
Wow, that's incredible. Wow.
So I go to these places, to answer your question, I go to these places, I cause problems for those who invite me.
She's such a troublemaker. You're such a troublemaker.
Yeah.
So back in Liberia, I know that you're most concerned really now about young women and the opportunities that they don't have. You told me memorably, I think, that the career options for so many women in Liberia, girls in Liberia, is cocktail waitress or hooker, which stuck in my mind. And I think now what you want to do is to create a school. Tell us about that, because I know it's a huge focus of yours now.
Okay, so, when you win these huge prizes, I tell people I wish I had won the prize at 60, then I have reason to retire, or 75. But at 39, and I'm 42 in a few weeks, people start asking you about legacy. It's a difficult thing, because I still have a 4-year-old. Legacy is equivalent to death. I'm not thinking about dying anytime soon. But in any case, my team in New York and Liberia pester me, and they're still pestering me to continue to think more. And my take was peace and security for women, leadership for women, economic empowerment for women is tied to education, both formal and informal. So we started a foundation where we started sending girls to school. We started 2 years ago. Currently we have 63 young women doing full 4 years, everything paid for in different universities in Accra, Ghana, Liberia, and in the US here. So we started that work, working with these girls. And then we realized that some of the educational system, or all of it, children come from high school and they've learned, someone said, it's education without learning. So they come from high school and if they do not have the chance of going to college, there's nothing that they can do. So we've decided to start this school, which becomes the first ever all-girls technical high school. So we're taking girls from 7th grade, and from 8th grade, they start to specialize in a particular trade area. When they're finished, they have their high school diploma, but they also have an Associate of Arts in a specific trade. If they do not get the chance to go to college, they can make life for themselves. Let me tell you, Tina, one of the reasons why I decided to do this. I have an 85-year-old friend. She calls me girlfriend. And every time I visit her, she has a new project for me. One of the days I go to visit her, and she said to me, girlfriend, I have something for you. And Jesus delivered you to my house. I said, oh lady, Jesus is always delivering me to you. What is the problem? She said, I want you to take this girl. And there sat a very beautiful 17-year-old. And I said, take her and do what? I have 2,000 children, by the way, 6 children, and then I'm taking care of 100 more, 2 million more all over the world. I can't add another one. She said, if you take this child, Jesus will bless you. I said, he's already blessing me. And then she said, but, so anyway, I knew I would not win with that old lady. So I asked this little girl, what is your story? At 13, she left home and became a sex worker. Because her parents, her grandparents that she lived with could not afford. At 17, she was tired. So I asked her, in the 3 years of sex work, what was the highest amount you made a night? In 3 years, tell me what was the biggest amount, and then you say, I've hit. She said $50 US. I opened my purse because I wanted to be sure. Took out a $50 bill and showed it to her and said, this? She said, yes, ma'am. Pick up my handbag, told her, get in my car, let's go. And the old lady said, where are you off to? I said, I'm off to making her right, because I will be her freaking nightmare for the rest of her life. But I want to hear her story. And this little girl tells me, ma'am, I'm tired. I do drugs, and I have to sleep with 6, 7 men, sometimes for $1 per round. Her story now is that I sent her to an all-girls boarding school. All girls, no boys. She's had enough men for the rest of her life. All girls. But I sat in my car and asked myself, how many more do we have out there? How many more are trying to find an outlet? How many more of these girls, that could be me, being a trailblazer, inspiring people globally. How many more are looking for a space? They don't have that old lady, but can we have an institution where they can walk to the door, knock on the door and say, I'm here, I'm sick and tired of sex and drugs, and I just want you to educate me to be somebody. So it's a new journey that we're on. I'm excited about it. We're opening our doors 2017 September. Tina has been generous to be our first donor to pledge $100,000. I'm happy for it. You know, sometimes, and I know time is up, when people see Nobel laureates and people see women leaders coming from places like Africa, and you've made it, and they're excited to come early in the morning to listen to you, I look at the girls on our scholarship and I tell myself every day when I'm engaging with them, this was me. This was me. And someone took a chance with me. It wasn't always this glamorous. It wasn't always this beautiful. It wasn't always this eloquent. But someone decided, and this is my journey. And if that is not legacy, Marcy, I hope you're taking notes. Thank you.
Thank you. Leymah. She's the best. Thank you.
Innovation is synonymous with impact. It's about taking an idea or a dream and acting upon it. Anna and I met when we were graduate students in architecture school. Our studio project was designed for disaster relief aid because it was just a few weeks after the Haiti earthquake had happened in January 2010. We were reading and watching the news, seeing all these terrible things that developed as a result of the earthquake. So we were thinking along the lines of, people were sending food, water, and shelter, but what else would be useful in that situation?
Millions of people were in these really densely packed tent cities. And Haiti, before the earthquake, didn't have a very good electrical grid. So after, it was in complete darkness. And we saw images of these families kind of huddled in these tent cities at night and heard stories about really horrible cases of rape and kidnapping. And we just could not imagine how it must feel to have lost everything and then have to worry about personal safety at night. When people often think of common emergency supplies, they think of food, water, shelter, but what we saw was a real need for lighting on the ground. A light could provide just a little bit of added comfort.
This is the circuit that's in the LuminAID. There's a solar panel that charges in 7 hours of sunlight. There's a rechargeable battery, similar to what you'd find in your cell phone or your iPad. There's this handy kind of snap and loop that allow you to pack it flat, fold it, clip it to your bag, charge it on the go. And the way it works is you inflate it. You can charge this for up to 7 hours in full sunlight, and then on a full charge, you'll get up to 16 hours of light on the low setting, and then up to 10 hours of light on the highest setting. And it's also waterproof and can float and can be printed with patterns, logos, and instructions.
Andrea and I actually happened to be on a class trip in Tokyo in 2011 when the earthquake struck.
Japan is a country that has a very developed infrastructure, and yet everything was completely disabled after that earthquake. We were in Tokyo for about another week, and there were rolling blackouts.
We were kind of stuck in our hotel, and we used our handmade prototype that we had made in our kitchens. It was a really interesting experience, and we were so grateful to have our prototype there.
No matter when in the daytime a disaster may happen, it's eventually going to be dark, and there is something that we can do to help, something that can actually enable people to survive after something like that, however small, was meaningful to us. Our Give Light, Get Light projects, which is where we have charitable partners distributing lights that have been sponsored by our customers, we've done those in just over 15 countries, the biggest of which have been Haiti, Laos, and lately the Philippines.
I think a mother of invention is someone who deeply understands the person that she is designing for and creates a solution that meets or ideally exceeds the needs of that person.
Wow. Please welcome to the stage Anna Stork and Andrea Sreshta, the creators and the designers of this amazing invention called LuminAID. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
My name is Kate Sullivan. I anchor the evening news here in Chicago. I anchor the 5, the 6, and the 10, so this is very early for me, but I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. Tina Brown, thank you for having me. And thank you mostly to Leymah Gbowee for being here and inspiring us all on this cold winter morning in Chicago. Thank you. We can feel the light that's in you, and your courage and your ability to turn your anger into something really beautiful has inspired me personally, and I'm sure everyone in this room. So thank you for being here. You know, a lot of us watch images on the news and feel compassion, feel anger, feel joy, but few take those emotions and channel them into something so positive as LuminAID. Tell me the story. We all saw the pictures of Haiti, were devastated, felt compassion, but you saw a need, correct?
Yeah, so Andrea and I were graduate students in architecture school at Columbia, and our studio started just 2 weeks after the Haiti earthquake. And we were kind of seeing what was currently being distributed and also what were the needs of those victims on the ground that were forced to live in these really densely packed tent cities. And one of the things that really struck us was that there was a need for lighting at night. There wasn't any lighting product that was really being distributed in the numbers that were needed, and there was a real lack of safety at night. So we decided to focus our energy on designing a lighting product that could meet those needs of an emergency and be easily and cost-effectively distributed.
Was this a conversation that happened between the two of you, or was this one of you saying to the other, hey, why don't they have something like this?
It was kind of a little bit of both, but it was definitely a collaborative effort right from the start. And kind of when the idea came to us, it was quick. We kind of just said, well, what if you did it this way? Took a look at what was out there and decided, there's a lot of really nice solar products. People send flashlights after disaster. But the one thing that we had in common was really asking that question, well, why aren't they on the ground? Where are these lights? And what can we do as designers to really find or design a solution that would be appropriate for that context? So we definitely had that mindset in common right from the start.
And Anna, you are an architect and actually worked at your kitchen table to begin the first parts of this, correct?
Yeah, when we came up with the idea of making an inflatable light, we ordered a whole bunch of different types of plastic on Amazon and handheld heat sealers and solar panels and batteries, and just started prototyping. So it was really nice to have the benefit of being in school to really have that whole semester to prototype and play with different components and try to find the best assembly for a lighting product that would be useful there.
Okay, so you have the idea and you have the know-how to actually create. My question is, where do you then get the money to produce it and then distribute it?
So, we had the know-how a little bit, but I will say a lot of learning has happened over the past couple of years as we've scaled things up. initially, to get the money to fund our manufacturing, we actually used a crowdfunding campaign. It was kind of the earlier days of when designers like us would start off with a crowdfunding campaign. You pre-sell the product, kind of get the word out there. And the other thing that was unique about our campaign was it was the first time that we tried out the model where, people who were buying our product would also sponsor lights that we would then donate to be distributed through nonprofits kind of all over the world. And so it was a really great way for us to test out a lot of different things about our model. And I'm happy to say that that aspect, our Give Light, Get Light projects, has only scaled ever since, because we really took the signal from our customers at that time that this was something that people were really going to support and help us, with our mission to make light more accessible.
When you talk about distribution, there are several aspects of your invention that actually makes distribution very easy, and one of them is the fact that it's really portable and really light, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was one of the things that we really wanted to make sure, is that it was cost effective for those large organizations that were distributing supplies, that they could easily pack it and ship it, and then they could easily transport it to the locations where it needed to be.
So how many have you sold?
To date, we've sold about 75,000 units, and then we've donated, in the first year we donated 5,000 of our Give Light, Get Light lights to nonprofits who do work in more than 15 countries. And this year, that number is only increasing. And also this year we've been able to, through sales to our largest NGO customers, put 15,000 lights most recently on the ground after the typhoon that happened in the Philippines, which for us was a big milestone because it's the first disaster that has happened where we really had, the operational muscle and production to put lights on the ground in meaningful numbers. So it's been nice to see things come full circle in that way. Not that there isn't, much more work to be done, even in the situation there. So we're continuing to work with our NGO customers to put lights on the ground there.
Anna, can you show us how it works? I know you have one on your lap.
Yes, I would love to.
Great. Sure.
So just has a solar panel, a rechargeable battery, and then an LED. So you blow it up like this. And you press the button once for the low setting, and that lasts 16 hours, and then twice for the high setting, and that lasts 10 hours. So it recharges in the sun in about 7 hours of light, and it recharges approximately 500 times.
So every day, as long as it's in sunlight, it will recharge and it'll be enough light for the entire night.
Yeah, exactly. The goal in kind of optimizing the performance was to make it so you didn't necessarily have to recharge it every day, that you could use it a few days in a row and then recharge it. And that's important for relief situations because you don't always know when you're going to have sunlight. The other thing about it is that it's also
so light.
Yeah, it's just 3 ounces. The other thing about it is that it's also waterproof and floats. So in emergency situations where there's a lot of flooding, that's something that was really important, and that's kind of the benefit of making it inflatable. I should also say that the reason that it inflates is to diffuse the light like a lantern and reduce the glare of the LEDs. So LEDs produce a lot of glare on your eyes, so you actually can't read with it unless there's kind of a case over it that diffuses that. So that's one of the reasons why it inflates.
Andrea, you had the opportunity to go to India and actually see firsthand the LuminAIDs in use. What was that like, and what were you there for, and what was the experience like?
Yeah, I actually just came back about a day and a half ago, so the jet lag worked out well for me to be here this morning. Actually, Anna and I mentioned those 15 countries and the projects that we've been doing with a lot of partners. Unfortunately, because we're a small business and we don't have that much funding available to do special projects, Anna and I haven't had that many chances to actually visit a lot of the places on the ground where LuminAID lights have been distributed. So it was a huge thrill for me to be able to go visit this one particular village where we had sent lights before through actually a group of college students, engineering students, who had organized a project a year ago, and so it was a chance to follow up on that. And this is a village that actually have connectivity to the electricity grid, but the demand for electricity creates a lot of power cuts throughout the day. So you have 6 to 12 hours of power cuts when people need lighting and power. And so they kind of live with that uncertainty every day. And the other notable thing about it is that we were distributing lights through the village school. And for me, one of the things that was really impactful is, when you see that ground zero picture, especially for the girls in school, you realize that many of these girls, they have to work very, very hard to make sure that they have access, to education, and that they see that through. And it was actually a really meaningful reminder to me that Anna and I have had a lot of, we've had the luxury of easy access to education. And that's really been a big driver in everything we've done since with this project before, and also in starting our small business. We've had nothing but support. And so you realize, the disparity there when you see the girls that are using our product, that they aren't, a lot of them won't have the benefit of the same chances that we've had. And it's just an important reminder of how lucky we've been to have access to education.
It's probably been a whirlwind of the creation and the idea and the distribution and raising the money. But have you let it sink in, not only the impact you've already made, but the impact that you can potentially make for years to come with a simple product that has a powerful, powerful use?
I think that we've had little milestones that have really sunk in, like distributing. We partnered with Doctors Without Borders and Shelter Box and a few other really wonderful organizations that we're kind of looking to when we were designing this product. We had those organizations in mind, and after the Philippines, we were able to partner with them and distribute around 15,000 lights, and that was a huge milestone for us where I think it really sunk in, like, wow, we actually, that was kind of the first thing for us where we really saw the impact in a large number in an emergency situation. And I think that meant a lot to us to achieve that and be able to distribute those lights. But we're always kind of reaching for the next thing and having the next goal in mind.
I mean, darkness is fear, and you're putting light in places, and I can't imagine the emotional impact that must have on you, and such a pat on the back for your hard work. It must feel good.
Yeah, it's extremely, it's very validating, actually, we're very lucky to be able to run a business where a lot of our time and effort can be dedicated towards projects and getting lights to people who need lights. Because, not every day is a good one necessarily, but it actually somehow, it really helps us and motivates us to get all of our work done, because we know that we have something that can also help other people. So we're very lucky in that way as well.
How much do they cost?
They retail for $19.95, and our Give Light Get Light package donates the additional light at cost, so that's $27.95. LuminAID.com.
So that's how people can donate. They go to LuminAID. Is it LuminAID.com or LuminAID.org?
It's LuminAID.com.
Okay, and they can donate and help this cause.
Yeah, we have at any given moment we run campaigns with a number of really great partners. So right now we have an NGO in India, in Calcutta, who's distributing lights in kind of the inner city slum areas. There's an education organization, Pencils of Promise. They build schools all over the world, so that's a really fun one because the school children all receive LuminAID lights. And several other really great partners that people can pick where they want their light to be sent.
Well, this is your first idea. What's next?
So we're looking to expand our brand and also our product line and develop more things for emergency applications. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from, military different needs of different organizations and groups. So we're looking to really build on this type of product, but different performance needs. So we have another product that's in the pipeline that it'll just be higher performing. It'll have more charging capabilities, like charging phones and being able to charge into an outlet and things like that. But we're really looking forward to more products.
Well, congratulations on being the 2014 Mothers of Invention, Women in the World. So thank you very, very much. Thank you for being here. Anna and Andrea. It's so nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. And if we could direct your attention to the screens, we have yet another inspiring woman to talk about.
I always ask every young man I meet, what's your dream? A lot of them don't know. And then I always just encourage them and say, there's greatness in you. I can tell that. You're a very special young man. And let them know that there is another choice. I founded Restoring the Path in 2009 as a response to the epidemic of young men being incarcerated and dying on the streets out here in Inglewood and the plights of their lives. I surveyed the youth on the corners and had asked them what activity would get them off the block, and boxing was the number one choice they picked. To be able to redirect their lives, you have to first have their attention. We see people shot out here over the littlest things, over perceived insults. So I'm trying to teach them that I won't even dignify it. In here you're a boxer, and here we're all brothers. It's very much a family here. That's the model too. We're a second family for these boys, a safe haven. It's $85,000 to incarcerate a juvenile versus our program model, which is less than $5,000 per juvenile to redirect their path. They no longer are actively engaged in gang activity. 90% have improved their attendance in school. The parents state that their children are less defiant at home. 100% of our youth feel good about themselves, which is a huge one. Nobody gets to come in here and take credit for them, not even me. They are their own coaches. They're their trainers.
Please welcome Sally Hazelgrove to the stage.
Thank you.
Hi, Sally.
Hi.
So tell me, first of all, how did you become involved with the community of Englewood, and also at what point did you see the huge disparity in need of the young men of Englewood?
It's actually kind of simple. About 14 years ago, I noticed on the news I was constantly seeing Englewood and youth not only dying, but also being the ones committing the crimes. So the tragedy on both sides struck me. And I decided to open the phone book, and I saw a place out there and just went out. And I started volunteering at the Evening Reporting Center, which was a court-mandated program for juveniles while their cases were pending. And as I got to know the young men and went to their homes, and I started advocating in juvenile court. And my son was a baby at the time, and I used to take him with me everywhere. And since I knew so much about their life, the judge frequently gave them that second chance, and I used to always say it was the baby that did it. And after that, I was offered to be a resource provider for DCFS, and I was assigned to youth at risk to be expelled. But I was always at Henderson Elementary, and I was just always so disturbed by the after-school hours, and then you go to funerals of children you've known, and then you cry over the ones that you've known that unfortunately have pulled the trigger. And as the video said, I started having a vision, and which was to build something that the youth could take over. And I always kind of felt that, I used to go to the Icky projects, which are now torn down, and I would interview youth and ask them about their life stories, and I just thought, what if this was my child? What if I was on drugs or in prison? I'm like, what if the only way I could feel good about myself and to gain power was through doing something and to feel like I belonged to something? I was raised in an upper middle class neighborhood, and I had great parents and family structure, but even with all that, I made a lot of poor choices. I gave my father a real good run for his money as a youth. And it wasn't because I was bad on the inside. For whatever reason, I didn't feel like I knew my importance in this world. And I feel that is exactly why youth are in gangs, not because they're bad or evil, but because, they need to feel important and they need to have a purpose. And it does provide that. So I decided to mimic their model.
So why boxing? This is something so passionate that you yourself have learned to box, correct?
Yeah, boxing is the greatest sport in the world. It's just like life, you take a punch, you get knocked down, so next time you learn to see what's coming at you, and you can stay on your feet more. But it's also a great outlet for anger. And but more than anything, it's what the boys wanted. When I went on the corners in 2004 in West Inglewood and with my little pen and paper, and I'm like, what would you guys like to do you can't do? And boxing was the #1 thing they chose. So through kind of the guidance of God and, just a lot of perseverance and keeping my eye on the prize, I started to build this thing. And even though we are a lot further up than where we started, I'll always really treasure those beginning days of breaking in an abandoned building and boxing and vacant lots and just so much, as I say, in the dirt. And with the young men, we built this thing.
So you created something called the Crushers Club, and the
Yes.
Crushers Club is a boxing club where kids can not only spend all their after-school time, but they can learn to box and box competitively.
Yes. And as well, my staff is the youth, the 14 to 18-year-olds, and then supervised by a couple of 22-year-olds and 21-year-old. And then I have a project coordinator and then myself. So in a weird way, I just, like I said, duplicated that kind of military model. But I always say I'm the architect building this, but the boys are the ones who are changing the lives of the children.
And we're fortunate enough to have some of the boys from the
Yes.
Crushers Club. Thank you so much for being here. And
Yes. This is fun.
if Curtis Williams could join us on the stage,
Yes.
we'd like to talk to him a little bit. And Sally, if you could tell me a little bit about Curtis as he walks to the
Sure.
stage. You first met him when he was 11, right?
I met him while I was at the Evening Reporting Center. He was one of the youth, and I got involved in his life and started to take him with me a lot of places. And he used to come to my home on the north side, advocated for him in courts, and then we lost touch for a while. The funny thing is, and I hope you don't mind if I share this, but Curtis was shot about 3 to 5 times one day when he was 15. But when the boys told me this, they didn't tell me he lived. So I'm crying my eyes out, thinking he's dead. And, I'm at home, I'm telling my son, I'm like, oh God, he's got to be in heaven. And then about 3 years later, somebody says something about Kurt. I was like, Kurt's dead. And they're like, no, he's not. And so,
Curtis, we're so glad you're here and alive.
Yes.
This is fantastic, great news. And I'm really interested to hear what it's like from your perspective. You started at 11, you probably had no idea how to box. What was the experience like? And what if you had to explain the Crushers Club to someone who doesn't know what it is, what would you say?
I would tell them we like family up in the Crushers Club. Everyone, we help each other out. We talk to each other about what we're going through at home, and we just try to put good energy into each other.
So it is boxing, but it's so much more. It's a family.
Yes, ma'am.
What if you had to explain your 11-year-old self versus now? You're now 23. What's the difference?
I grew way much from when I was 11 years old, from the street mentality and to being a grown man with my own 3 kids. So that's how I look at the little youth that come to the gym. I say I treat them like my own little kids. I wouldn't want my kids to go wild and run the streets like I did, because I almost wasn't here. I almost didn't make it to see the age 23.
Well, you are probably the most powerful teacher of all there, because no one knows what it's like to be in their shoes, but you do.
Right.
So what is that like when you can personally help someone the way Sally and the other members of the Crushers Club helped you?
I feel good about helping them. To tell them don't do the things that I went through, and it's a more better life than being out there on the streets. It takes time, but for the ones that's out there that is going through what I went through at a young age, that you can still change no matter what you go through. And when you do change, that you can help other kids to change too, to lead them to help other kids to change too. It just takes time.
you said something really, really powerful, and that's the ability to change. Don't you think that so many of the kids that are right now caught up in gang activity have no concept that they could change? They have no idea that their life could be different.
All it takes is strong leaders to talk to them, to get them to listen, and to make them feel that it is a change out here. You don't need the gang.
Sally, what's it like when you can see the transformation in some of these guys?
It's just the greatest gift I could ever tell you. And I just feel like, we say in God we trust on our money and that children belong to God. So I feel like, well, then all children belong to us. And I'm so honored and humbled that God gave me boxing and as well music. We have a music studio because that was another big draw. That JoJo and Kendall, if you wouldn't mind standing up, guys, they run our music studio. Also, both of them been in the streets, led the life, and they have the biggest impact on the children. And I'd say the most powerful thing for me is to see them showing love. And so these are, we have 8 to 18, although 7 and 6-year-olds do sneak in. And, but they're looking up, seeing when I'm 14, I can work at the Crushers Club. And to see them surround a young man who goes through tragedy or at risk like Ivory. Ivory, will you stand up? Ivory's 13 now. And his mother passed away last summer, and that was pretty much his whole family. So there were some very intense moments and high-risk events that happened, but the Crushers surrounded him and made sure and told him, and I'll never forget, one of them had a tear coming down his eye, and he said, "We're your family. We're your family now, and we got you." And Ivory is doing amazing. He's the greatest kid. He's funny and precocious. And he's doing great at school. He's on the basketball team. He boxes. He's making a song in our music studio. And he will be joining the payroll once he's 14.
I love it. Well, congratulations to you, Sally, for this amazing organization. Curtis Williams, thank you for coming up and telling us a little bit about your experience. Thank you to you both. True inspirations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. What a fantastically inspiring group here. I mean, and to have Curtis up here and Ivory and the boys and this remarkable work you're doing with the Crushers Club, it's really fantastic. We're thrilled that you're also going to be joining the Women in the World Summit in April in New York, because we want to expose the work to an even bigger audience there. So thank you so much to you. And thank you, everybody here. We've had some fantastic women on this stage. It's just a glimpse, really, of what you can see if you do come in April to the summit. Tickets will go on sale in a couple of days, and we're going to email all of you to let you know when that is. But in the meantime, I hope you get a sense now of what we do at Women in the World, and are as pleased as I am that we've met today some truly inspiring women who raise all of our sights and make us all want to leave this room and be the women that they are. Thank you. And the men.